everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Onnnn Block podcast. It is Sunday, November 3rd, 2024. I am Nordic with my host, LeBlock. I guess we're both hosts. I really can't come up with a good intro for that, but LeBlock, how are we doing? It's the first podcast of November.
Doing pretty good. It's the first of the month.
It's actually the third of the month. It's the third of the month. Yeah. All right, so not a lot to talk about on this episode. When it comes to news, we have just news that we're going to talk about. Then we're going to do our October 2024 tier list. I know it's November, but we're kind of going to do what it's been up to so far. And I think that it's pretty good stuff to talk about. But let's just get straight into it here. Starting off with a lawsuit. Now, first off, I hate to throw this in your face as the very first thing in news we talk about here, but Alex Formenton is reportedly suing his former agent for $20.5 million. Now, I'll read a little bit more into this before I, kind of take my thoughts on it. So this is from Puck Report NHL. It says, former Sens forward Alex Formenton filed a $20.5 million lawsuit against Newport Sports and his former agent Wade Arnott, alleging negligence, breach of contract, and breach of fiduciary duty, according to TSN's Rick Westhead. Formenton claims that he suffered income loss for the 2022 and 2023-24 season, plus future income arising from lost playing time in the NHL because of Arnott and Newport. The services were done negligently, carelessly, and unskillfully. The lawsuit alleges that the agent wrongfully held out for the Sens for a new contract and not accurately advised the player of his options when it comes to accepting his $787.5K qualifying offer, and then negotiating a new third contract with the team. Wade's advice was wrong. Sens did not propose or agree to a new contract with Alex prior to December 1st, 2022, and accordingly, Alex was ineligible to play for the remainder of the 22-23 season. In December of 2022, Formenton agreed to a $125K deal with Ambri Piotta in Switzerland and asked for an NHL opt-out clause in the deal. At no time during negotiations did Wade advise Alex of the consequences and repercussions of transferring to a European team and the impact this may have on a continued career in the NHL. Formenton is suing for $20 million in damages and an additional $500,000 in punitive damages. So, LeBlanc, when we came on here, you told me you had a story. So would you like to tell that story to start off?
So we were at the Sens game last night. Not us two, but I was at the Sens game last night. And behind us, we had a gentleman basically defending Formenton in the whole, even like in the lawsuit here and in what's going on with Formenton, outside of hockey. So it was an older gentleman, and once again, it's another blatant reminder of how, hockey culture is still undergoing major changes. And so he has the right to sue his agent, yes, but there's also other bigger things going on right now in Formenton's life that I think might be a little more important than just suing the agent.
Yeah, I would agree. Isn't he? Yeah, he's a part of that thing that is going on. So that's a really an interesting. I feel like that's kind of trying to take the spotlight off of him and what's going on with that and this, but it also does leave you, it's interesting that things went down that way. LeBlanc, even though with the things that are going on with him, do you think that Formenton is somewhat right here, or what are you thinking?
I feel like, in a sense of the way, yeah, I could see how the agent didn't do their job. I could see how, because the Sens, I'll be honest, the Sens were never going to sign him.
Yeah.
We know now the Sens never had any intention of bringing Formenton back, so did the agent not do his job? Probably. Did he not? But here's the thing. Formenton should have known about the consequences about signing over in Europe before he signed over in Europe.
Right.
Yeah, so I feel like the agent didn't tell him, didn't do their job properly, but then again, Formenton kind of did this already. He kind of doing it after the fact, like many years later. Still, I understand where he's coming from, but I also understand on the side of the agent.
Yeah, I think there's legitimate ground for both sides, so we'll see where that amounts to. But I don't know. I think that it's going to be something that we may follow in the future. We're not going to hear a lot about it because those things kind of take a long time. Hence, with what else is going on with Formanton right now. So yeah, overall, just something interesting that made the media headlines that I thought was of note. In other news, not a lot of like technical NHL news this episode. Sarah Fillier has signed a 1-year deal with the PWHL New York Sirens. And the reason why I bring this up is because there's some concern there with me. It's a 1-year deal for the first overall pick. And, they tried. And with the NHL, the thing is that you always have like a 3-year, like mandatory entry level contract. It's always a thing that's required for every player who comes into the league, unless if you're like coming from the KHL and you're like 26, I think. But this is interesting because in the PWHL they don't have that rule, and apparently the Sirens tried to get her to sign a 3-year deal, then a 2-year deal, and she just kept saying no every single time. And they finally agreed to a 1-year deal. And there's a lot of people who were speculating that she's just gonna leave. She's just gonna leave New York and then go to Toronto because she's from the Toronto area. So LeBlanc, I don't know if you follow that too much, but how do you feel about that?
So, yeah, she's from Georgetown, Ontario, which isn't that far from. I think it's about like an hour or two away from Toronto, about an hour.
Yeah.
But so I want to say this, that they still are going to have her rights for 2 more years. Okay. So this isn't a thing where it's like, oh, after this 1 year she's an unrestricted free agent. No, they still have rights for 2 more years. But I still see this as a player doesn't want to play for, like, if you really wanted to play for the New York Sirens, you would have signed that 3-year deal.
Probably, yeah.
But this sounds like a case of, hey, I'm going to play my 1 year, then I'm going to force my way somewhere else. And I do want to say, I've always hated players forcing themselves situations, unless, under circumstances. But like this just feels like one of those, hey, I'll play for 1 year, and then you're going to trade me.
Right. Yeah, it really does seem like that, and I don't think that's cool, to be honest.
I feel like there should be, like, even in the NHL, I'd say, like, entry, like the players who are like, oh yeah, I'm not going to play in that small market, I'm not going to play here to there. There needs to be more protections for teams in place, and I think there's no different here in the PWHL, which is obviously it's different in the NHL. But I feel like this is, this isn't me having inside information. It's me just saying, I got a feeling about this.
Yeah, I really think that the PWHL should make it a rule for them to have to sign 3-year ELCs instead of a 1-year, or having the option to do 1 or 2 or 3. I think it should be 3 years out of the gate. But again, the league's in like their second season, so they have a lot to work on. They're gonna learn some lessons throughout the next couple of years about things that maybe should be changed and stuff like that. And the NHL does too. Like the NHL learns lessons all the time. In their 110 years they've been around. So it happens, but hopefully that will get resolved, and if not, we'll find out about that later on. I think that's it for the notable news, to be honest with you, LeBlanc. There really isn't a lot that has kind of struck in the eye. Has there been anything that you've noticed?
How about them Sens? How about them Sens? That's really
all. Yeah, so I guess we're going to go straight into our October 2024 tier list. That'll be the majority of what this video is going to be. So we'll transfer over to that, and you guys can enjoy. Okay, so we're going to move right on to our October 2024 tier list. So we did this for September. We did this for August, I think. So we're going to do it again here for October. Now, our October one's going to be a little bit different because they played games. So it's worth talking about, where we think teams are as of right now. And again, we're not going to try and be overreactive to teams that have started off slow because it's still a little bit early, but we're still going to kind of react to how we think everything's going right now. So, LeBlanc, would you like to explain the tiers that we have? We have 5 of them.
So, going from the bottom to the top, James Hagen season, I think you already know what that is. That's, you're going to be in the running for the first overall pick. You're going to be in the running for James Hagen's. Playoffs unlikely. Teams that are not really in the sweepstakes, but probably not going to make the playoffs.
Probably not.
Playoffs likely are teams in the race or actively in the divisional spots. Sorry,
Yes.
well, mostly teams in the race. To playoff locks are teams we think are going to make the playoffs. Like there's no way they don't make the playoffs. It's like they're pretty much locked in that spot. And
Mm-hmm.
cup contenders are teams we think that their goal isn't just make the playoffs, win a round. Their goal is get to the cup. That's your end goal. You don't get to the cup final, it was a wasted season.
Yeah, that's pretty much how all of those tiers are. So let's get straight into it here. Starting off with the Colorado Avalanche and LeBlanc. We got an interesting one to start off here because the Avalanche are 5-7-1 to start this season with 10 points. They are sixth in that Central Division. Notably, St. Louis and Utah are above them. But LeBlanc, what are you thinking right now for Colorado still?
So I want to say this right now. Colorado is they're injured to hell and back. So
They are.
but even before their injuries, they looked okay. They didn't come out of the gate firing. I'm still gonna put them in playoffs likely. I don't think they're a lock, because I still don't trust the tandem in between the pipes there.
Yeah, I agree. I don't think they're a. If they had all of their players back and healthy, I would put them in lock. But I just don't think that they already have a very weak forward core as it is. I just don't know if again with that goaltending, it can be very reliable. So yeah, I'm putting that in playoffs likely as well. I agree with you. Next up, then we got another team in the Central, the Chicago Blackhawks. They are 4-7-1 for 9 points. They are last in the Central. LeBlanc, I'm putting them in James Hagen season. I think you would be as well.
I would agree with that. Yes.
Yeah, I don't know. There really hasn't been anything that has shined for Chicago. They've gotten a few nice wins to start the year though. Like they beat Colorado, ironically. They beat Edmonton earlier on in the season. They look okay in points, but again, it's going to be another pretty rough year in Chicago, most likely. So, all right. Next up, the Columbus Blue Jackets. The Blue Jackets, LeBlanc, they're surprising people. They are only 5-5-1 for 11 points, but they're fifth in that Metropolitan Division. So, LeBlanc, what are you thinking here for Columbus?
We do this list month by month. So for this month, and they look good. They haven't looked bad. Like
Yeah.
I'm gonna put them in playoffs unlikely. I don't think they're
Yeah.
gonna be in that James Hagen's race. As of now, what I've seen, they're obviously striving for better, and I think
Right.
this is the spot where you could see them landing.
Yeah. I'm with you. I think that playoffs unlikely is right. I like to be honest, like they look good to start the year, and that's great to see. Like you love to see that. As a Blue Jackets fan, especially with all that they've gone through in the last couple of years, it's good to see that something's going right for them in this month of October. But yeah, I agree. They won't make the playoffs. They're likely going to be in the James Hagen's race. But right now, playoffs unlikely, I think, is a nice touch for this October tier list. Next up, then, the St. Louis Blues, who are fifth in the Central with a 6-6 record for 12 points. LeBlanc, they're kind of in the middle right now. Like they're such a middling team. What are you thinking about St. Louis right now?
Mid. I think that St. Louis. I still think they're playoffs unlikely. Because I don't know what team I'm gonna get night in night out. I could get a team that gets athlete whoppled by Ottawa, or I can get a team that comes out and beats Toronto. I don't know what I'm gonna get night in night out from this team and Jeff Bannister's Blues. I really don't. That's why I don't have them. I don't think I don't think they're a playoff team. I don't think they're a bad team. So I think playoffs unlikely is probably where they're gonna end up in my book anyway.
Um, yeah, I agree with you. Not a lot of disagreements here so far, to be honest. These are teams where you're pretty much like on the same page. Yeah, I agree. I think just like they're still such a middling team. I saw like they started off their year pretty well, and then just like recently they've kind of fallen off a little bit to 500. So it's made me feel like they're kind of falling back down to earth now. So yeah, I agree. I think playoffs unlikely is the right spot. The Boston Bruins. The Bruins currently sit at a surprisingly, if it wants to load,
6, 6,
um,
and 1.
6-1 record for 13 points. They are fourth in that Atlantic Division. Keep in mind though, they are tied. Or actually, I think Toronto gained a point, so I think they're
Toronto got a
tied.
point, yes.
Yeah. So they're 1 point behind Toronto for third, or they're 1 point
They're
behind.
tied. They're tied with Toronto. Yeah.
Okay. All right. They're tied with Toronto for fourth, and they're 1 point ahead of Ottawa for fifth. 2 points ahead of Detroit for sixth, and then I think 5 points ahead of Montreal and Buffalo. I will say this. I feel like we are kind of touching on this now. Like, if we made this hypothetically a couple days ago, Boston would have been eighth, but they won their 2 games today. I think they actually didn't even allow a goal in either of them. So, yeah, I think that Boston right now for me is probably probably in playoffs likely, I would say. I think they still make it. They're not a lock, but they're probably likely right now.
Yeah, they've had a good couple games. The past 2 games, they looked pretty good. But before that, yeah. Another team. I don't want to say they're like St. Louis, but because they're better than St. Louis, obviously. But like once
Yeah,
again, a team where it's like you don't know what you're gonna get. Like Mark Kastelik. Mark Kastelik is one of the team's top scorers right now.
he is. I will say this: like a lot of their guys really haven't shown up besides that fourth line, which is a good thing, I guess, if you want to look at it from that way. But like your big guys aren't showing up, like that's your issue. So I still think they make playoffs. I still think they're most likely to make playoffs, in my opinion.
Yeah, I think they're still like they're not a lock, but I think they'll make playoffs.
Yeah, so they're playoffs likely for me. Next up, then, the Montreal Canadiens, who are, again, last in that Atlantic Division with a 4-7-1 record for 9 points. Yeah, just as of right now, from what I've seen, I think it's probably going to be playoffs unlikely, maybe even James Hagen season. What do you think?
I put them down in James Hagen season.
Really? Okay.
I don't see a team they had started out good, but then the end of this month has just been not kind to them. Um, Getting walloped by Seattle, and like Seattle's like a team where it's like Montreal. You could argue beginning of the year that Montreal might be able to be on the same tier as Seattle,
Yeah.
but getting walloped by them is not a good look at the end of your month. You look at the way they're playing defensively, they're shot defensively. And they're doing now what they're doing is they're just going all goon squad on everybody now.
Right.
And I don't want to be picky here, but that's what bad teams do.
So, I want to say this. I've seen a lot of, like, people complaining on Twitter. I think we even talked about this in our last episode. Like, we said that, like, there were a lot of people who expected for them to be a lot better this year. I was one of the people who thought they'd be a little bit better, but not, like, a lot better.
Yeah.
And what people and it's not just Habs fans, because there are many fans around the NHL who feel this way. But like I feel like there's some people who just don't understand that rebuilds take time. Like Montreal is hypothetically, I think, in the third year of their rebuild right now because 22 23, 23 24, and then 20 and then this year right now. I wouldn't count that massive tank year after the finals as like a rebuilding year. If you want to, sure, but like
You
again,
yeah, I'd say the rebuild starts the year you commit to the rebuild.
yeah. So like they are in that third year then if we go by those standards. And I just don't think this team is ready yet. And that's okay. Like you want to give your young guys time to develop. You want to give your young guys, that that chance to get opportunities and I think that people kind of see what they did at the draft and see the guys they drafted and kind of like expect them to come in and play super well right away, which again it isn't just Montreal that's doing that. It may seem like I'm just raining on Montreal, but like I've done that as a Coyotes and Utah fan. So again, like I think that them being bad is not a bad thing whatsoever. You get another top 5 pick, like you're set. Like you are set. So I think that them being bad is completely fine.
Yeah, we said beginning of the year that they would be bad but competitive. And that's what
Yeah.
I've seen from Montreal so far, bad but competitive.
Exactly. So I think they're in a good spot being that. Next up then, the Vancouver Canucks, who are currently, as my divisions load again, 5-2-3 for 13 points. They are third in that Pacific Division. LeBlanc, they've actually gone on kind of a heater recently, won a couple of games in a row. I'm gonna say, actually, I'll let you say here first because I'm not really too sure. I'm stuck
So
between
I
Canucks.
know you always you don't like when I say this, but like overtime losses are what?
You the loser point
They're
basically.
yeah. So overtime losses are still losses. This team, like by NHL, you got points. You're 65% winning percentage, but in my eyes, you're 500.
Yeah, I do look at it from that way too.
Yeah, so I would say I'm gonna put Vancouver. I want to put them at the very top of playoffs. Likely, I don't think they're a lock. At least this month, they haven't shown me that they've been a lock. Pedersen
Looks
looks.
slow.
You just signed that man to a big extension. That
Exactly.
yeah. Goaltending's been an issue. They've played good down the stretch. They played better hockey recently. Getting walloped by Jersey. Not on first responders night is not a great look.
No, it's not.
Yeah. I just think like until Demko comes back, this team will be in the race, but not a lock for me.
Yeah, I think I agree. I think I can agree with that. I see Vancouver as a team. Like I really don't know what to think of them just yet. It's still really early, but again, as you said, like they're basically 500 just with the loser points thrown in. I do think they make the playoffs most likely, but I don't think they're a lock until Demko comes back, and hopefully that's in November or December, or else I don't know if you can manage with this good goaltending for that long of a period of time. But we'll see. I've been
Yeah.
wrong before. We'll see. All right, next up, the Washington Capitals. The Capitals currently stand at a pretty remarkable, um, if it can load, 8-3-0 record for 16 points. They are third in the NHL, or third in the Metro Division. I think fourth in the NHL, or fourth or fifth in the NHL. LeBlanc, I know you've kind of talked down on the Capitals because you actually sold on them last week, but what are you thinking about Washington now?
Washington is on a good. It started out really well. They've gotten the goaltending. Can they maintain? They've played really well. They lost to Carolina today. I think they lost by a substantial amount actually. That's 4-2. That's not too bad. But I'm gonna put the Capitals at least for this month. We'll put them in a playoff lock.
Playoff lock. Oh yeah, we love to see that. I agree. I think Washington's playing at that really hot pace. Ovechkin, 36 goals. That's all he needs to pass Wayne Gretzky. That's crazy to
That's
think. He might
crazy.
actually do that this season. And he's put up that pace in the first 11 games for Washington. If he keeps up that pace, he will break the goal record.
Mhm.
So it's pretty remarkable to see, to be honest. So Capitals, I think, in playoff lock is the right spot for them right now. New Jersey Devils. The Devils are 7-5-2 for 16 points. They are actually tied with Washington and Carolina for second in that division, but by default with the I think it's regulation wins. They are fourth in that division. So LeBlanc, how are we feeling about Jersey? I think I'm in the top two, top
I
three.
think you put them in playoff lock.
Probably yes. They've shown. I will say this: they've shown some points for me that make me a little bit doubtful.
Mm-hmm.
That game against Tampa was brutal. That game against Calgary was pretty brutal.
That
I
was pretty
know.
brutal. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's
So
coming off a back to back though. I always say like you'll never get back to back games in the playoffs. You'll always get back to back games in the regular season. So
yeah,
it's not like once the legs are tired, it's hard to get them going again. But
yeah,
I feel like Jersey's played well enough where I could put them in that spot confidently.
yeah. And I think they've had some good wins in there too, like the win against Vancouver. I thought was a pretty good win as well, as we just talked about.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that the Devils should be a lock for now, but that may change. Anaheim Ducks are as of right now they are 4-4-2 for 10 points. They are seventh in that Pacific Division. They do have a game tonight against Chicago, so those stats might be inaccurate. But LeBlanc, I think I'm putting Anaheim in probably Hagen's season again.
We'll put him at the very end of Hagen's season. At very end of Hagen's season because like I want to say for the Ducks, Dostal has looked fantastic.
I've seen some people make the argument that he's a top 5 goalie.
Yeah, I'm not at that point yet, but he's had fantastic start to the year. Basically, if they don't have Dostal on that goal, Anaheim is a very, very bad hockey team.
Probably. They're probably pretty horrendous. I'm with you there. I think Anaheim is in the right spot. Calgary, we're getting through a lot of the Pacific teams first. The Calgary Flames are 6-4-1 for 13 points. They are 4th in that Pacific Division. Calgary has looked very surprising to start the season.
This is one where I'm going back and forth on two categories.
Yeah.
Because I know it's a team down there in the depth of the standing. There's 2 teams down there, 3 teams actually, if you can argue, that will come back and I think will take those spots. Calgary started very, very well. We're gonna screw it. I'll put them in playoffs likely.
Oh boy, we got a lot of hot takes here. Just saying, they are currently down 2-0 against the Oilers after an intermission. And they, if the Oilers do win this game, they tie them with Vancouver for 3rd.
Do you know what happened last time they were down 2-0 to the Oilers? They won 3-2 in overtime, so I'm not worried about it at all.
True, you're right. You are right. So, yeah, we'll see what happens there.
I think this is a well-deserved spot, at least for this month. They've come out firing. Huberdeau looks like a whole new player. Wolf and Vladar have been very good for them as well. Anderson's been playing lights out. I think next month we might see them drop, but for this month, I think playoffs likely is just. I think it's a good spot for them.
Yeah, I agree. The Philadelphia Flyers, 8th in the Metro, 4-7-1 for 9 points. LeBlanc, I have embraced the tank. James Hagen season.
Yep. Philadelphia, and I think we argued this in the offseason. Like we didn't know how to gauge Philadelphia until we saw them play.
Yep.
And now that you've seen them play live, and I've seen them play, Philadelphia is not a great hockey team.
No,
and it's okay. Like for me, them being bad is a good thing.
I agree. I think that them being bad is the best thing that could happen to them hypothetically. Because honestly, the way I see it, I think that, them getting a top 10 draft pick could be the best thing that could happen to them. Getting another elite player, hopefully, maybe even someone like James Hagens, could set this team up for the future.
James Hagens or Porter Martone.
They need a center.
Yeah.
Anybody who's a center that is better than Ryan Poehling needs to get in there right now. Like, seriously. So, Philadelphia in Hagen's season, I think, is where I have them.
Okay, yeah.
Vegas. LeBlanc. Vegas is 8-3-1 for 17 points. They are 1st in the Pacific right now.
Vegas has been cooking. Vegas has looked. They've come back in games. They've looked. Eichel and Stone have been killing it. I am going to go out on a limb here. Let's put Vegas back in the cup contender spot.
Whoa. Okay. You want to explain why?
I feel like Vegas is clicking as a team. I feel like the defense is shored up. As long as they stay healthy, that forward core, like the wingers on that you can make those the 4 wingers on each side. The 8 players they're by far elite. The center depth is still weak for me, but the way they're playing, they could contend for the cup.
I don't know. I kind of agree with you, kind of don't. I don't want to overreact that crazy. I would put them in playoff lock. I just don't. Yeah, they did win the cup 2 years ago. At this point,
the core is still there. The only thing I would say, the center depth, Aiden, goaltending wise, I'm still not sold in the tandem, but it's working for them. So
it is. So yeah, I don't know. I guess we'll see where that goes. To be honest with you. Carolina Hurricanes are 8-2-0. They have 16 points. They are tied for second with the Capitals and the Devils in the Metro. Carolina, I think, should be a lock for the playoffs, and they look better than I thought they would to start the year.
Yeah, that's a fair take. I feel like them in the playoff lock is perfectly fine.
Yeah. So we have 3 metropolitan teams in playoff lock, not even including the one that we're probably gonna have to put in playoff lock or
Yeah.
cup contender later on. New York Islanders. This is probably a team we won't be putting in cup contender or playoff lock. Definitely not. The Islanders are 4-6-1 for 10 points. They are or 4-6-2 for 10 points. They are 7th in that metropolitan. I think probably playoffs unlikely.
Yeah, I was gonna say playoffs unlikely. They are banged up right now too.
They are.
Losing Barzal, losing Duclair. They also lost. Who else did they lose? Lost somebody else. I'm blanking right now. But yeah, not haven't looked great though. Can't score a goal. Can't buy a goal to save them.
They already weren't looking good before the injuries,
Yeah,
so it just doesn't look like it's
that
going to be a tough year.
that loss to the Red Wings that really like resonated with me. That they're
10 shots the Red Wings had.
Yeah, that loss really like kind of like ooh, this is serious.
Yeah, and then the loss against the Panthers too, where they blew a 3-0 lead, was really one that made me a little bit concerned for this team. The Winnipeg Jets are up next. They are 11-1 for 22 points. They are first in the Central, I think first in the league. They are the only team in the league so far to have over 10 wins. LeBlanc, they're a cup contender right now.
So yeah, so your co-host Carter is gonna love this. Put the Jets in cup contenders.
He
Do
is
it.
gonna love this.
Yeah,
They're in cup contender for this month.
I
I just think they're playing so well.
put them
Like,
above Vegas.
above Vegas. Okay.
Yeah.
Like honestly, like Kyle Connor looks great. Hellebuck looks great. Scheifele looks great. Like they're just connecting on all cylinders right now. It's like incredible to watch. I think Hellebuck wins the Vezina too.
Yeah, it's really hard to get back-to-back Vezinas, and I think he keeps it up. He's gonna be the number one contender for the Vezina again.
Most likely, yeah. I would agree with that for sure. So Winnipeg at cup contenders, I think is the right spot for them. At least as of right now. Again, things could completely change in a month, and they could completely fall off. But we'll see. I'm not saying they will, but we'll see. Next up, the LA Kings, who are 6-3-3 for 15 points. They are 12th in the they are 12th in the Metropolitan. They are Pacific. They are 12. They are second in the Pacific. They played 12 games. That's why I said 12. LeBlanc, I don't really know how they gauge the Kings so far. They are second in that Pacific, but they do have 3 overtime losses,
So
which does make them technically 500.
once again, I could come back to that point. I think the Kings. I would put them in playoffs likely.
I would put them, I don't know, right here probably.
Because they lost to the Blackhawks last night, and I want to just tell you what Dylan told me last night when I texted him what happened. He said it wouldn't be a Kings game if we didn't blow a big ass lead.
Yeah. Yep. So I think the Kings, like, they're a little bit difficult to tell so far. I haven't really. They're one of the teams that I haven't really paid attention to too much. I haven't watched any of their games so far this year. But yeah, LA. We'll see where November takes them. But I think second right now is a good spot. But overall, that entire Pacific seems to be struggling right now.
Yeah, it's one of the weak. Like Vancouver is 13 points in their third. You had 13 points. If you have 13 points in the East, you are tied for the last wild card.
Yeah. So again, different world in the East.
Yeah.
So Kings in playoffs likely. Seattle, they are 5-7-1 for 11 points. They're tied with the Oilers as of right now. They are 6th in the Pacific. I don't know, LeBlanc. They're one of those teams that I'm questioning a little.
I as my dark horse of the year, like really has not given me much hope. Outside a couple games, but like they just don't look great right now. I would put them in playoffs unlikely at the very top.
Yeah, playoffs likely at the very top.
Unlikely.
Okay, all right. Yeah, I think that so far again they're 2 games below 500. 3 if you include the overtime game. I see them as right now a team that's probably barely gonna miss. It's kind of where I see Seattle right now, unless if they really pick it up in November, like again, what really killed them last year was the slow start. So, yeah, I think that playoffs unlikely right now is the right place. Next up, then, the Tampa Bay Lightning, who my app just refreshed, so give me a second. The Lightning are 7-5-0 for 14 points. They are actually second in that Atlantic, tied with Toronto. So, LeBlanc, this team looks good so far. I know they lost to Winnipeg today, but Winnipeg's a good team. Where would you put Tampa right now?
Playoff lock.
Playoff lock. All right. Yeah, I
Yeah.
agree with that. They've kind of surprised me so far to start the season.
Yeah, and as a team that I've seen play live this year, Tampa looks different. Like the I don't know if they've switched up the system. I know they have new personnel in this year, like Jake Gensel. The depth's short. The depth is still not great, but it's working, and they're playing lights out. Vasilevsky looks decent as well, so there's no complaint here. Tampa's been clicking.
Yeah, I agree. I think playoff lock right now is the right spot. I feel like they've been better off without Stamkos too.
Yeah. I hate to say it because I was one of the guys like, oh, could you get rid of Stamkos? Like that.
Yeah, but yeah, I don't know. I think you're in the. I think that's the right place. Toronto, they are 6-5-2 for 14 points. They are third in the Pacific or Atlantic, tied with Tampa. I don't know. Toronto's pretty hard to tell as well because I feel like there are some games where like they play so well, like they played Tampa really well last week, and then they got steamrolled by Columbus, steamrolled by St. Louis, lost in overtime to Boston. Then they would, like I feel like there are some weeks where they just look so good. There are some weeks where they just don't look good. And I don't really know where to put Toronto. I would put them definitely probably in playoffs likely for me, but
yeah, I was gonna say playoffs. They're not a lock in my eyes, but playoffs likely definitely.
Yeah, I would put them either at the top or next to Vancouver at second.
I put them next to Vancouver.
Okay, yeah, I think that's fine. The Sens hates really getting to him. Anywho, yeah, I just think that like I've actually liked how Stolarz has played. I've actually liked how their goalie situation has looked, and that was one of the biggest things that I doubted with Toronto. It's looked pretty good so far, I would say. I just think that I don't know. I just there are some games where they just look so good. There are some games where they just look so bad. They're just a hot and cold team right now.
Yeah, and I think until that system of Craig Berube clicks in, we're gonna see this hot and cold. And they lost to they lost today to Minnesota as well. I don't know how to gauge that. I'm not gonna lie.
They lost 2-1 in overtime. I had the game on for a little bit. They looked okay. It's just, Minnesota looks like a good team right now. All right, next up, the Edmonton Oilers, who are currently playing right now against Calgary. They are 5-5-1 for 11 points. They are fifth in the Pacific. They look okay so far. I would say they're not a cup. LeBlanc, what do you think?
If we're talking, for this month, they have not played like a cup contender in my eyes. I'll tell you that. I still think they're playoffs likely. Because eventually they'll get up to the lock, but if we're doing like retrospect off the month, you can go playoffs likely.
I would put them at the top of playoffs likely.
Yeah, that's fine with me.
Yeah. If we're gonna put them anywhere, that's what I would do. Florida has looked good of those two games that made the Cup Finals. They are 9-3-1 for 19 points. They are first in the Atlantic. LeBlanc, I'm gonna hit Cup contenders.
Yeah, put them up.
They're looking like they can win back to back right now.
Yeah,
just looking really good. I think that's really all we need to say. Like they just look like they're firing on all cylinders, especially with the injuries they dealt with too. Like even like they lost Barkov for most of the month. They lost Kachuk for a few games in there, and they still look good. Yeah. And even like guys like Jesper Boquist have looked solid. A few of their guys they've caught up have looked good. So just like all in all, they look like they can win another cup right now. So you love to see it. Pittsburgh Penguins. Penguins are 5-7-1 for 11 points. They are sixth in that Metro right now. LeBlanc, I'm going playoffs unlikely for them.
Yeah, I would say playoffs unlikely. Probably, yeah, I think right there. Just they played Montreal last night, and that's an whole other situation. We got I'll mention that at the end of the episode, but like,
Yeah,
not a good hockey team.
they're not. And the weird thing is, their goaltending and defense look bad, but LeBlanc, you look at like their offensive numbers, they're scoring. Like they're
Yeah,
actually offensively they look good. It's the defense, and who would have thought it would have been a defense? It's the defense that's killing them right now, seemingly, and that goaltending.
yeah, and where have I heard this story before? I heard,
Yeah, yeah. Where have I heard?
I do want to say Joel Blomqvist is playing very, very, very well for them though.
Yeah, he's somebody I've seen, and I've said this multiple times before. I have seen him play in the minors against the Phantoms of Lehigh Valley, the Flyers affiliate, because like I go to the games all the time. I live in the area, and he's looked terrific. And seeing him play in the NHL kind of makes me happy for him. But again, just with Pittsburgh, I haven't seen anything that has pizzazzed me.
Nothing's like Crosby. That's really about it. Like Crosby stands out. Offense stands out. Defense and goaltending are booty cheeks. Like I don't
Booty
cheeks.
Yeah,
like
I'm with you. So yeah, Pittsburgh. I think right now their playoffs unlikely. If it does get worse, maybe they're in James Hagen's contention, but we don't want to see that. Do we really want to see?
No, that? Like I want to see Crosby be in the race. Like
I want to see him get back into the playoffs at least one more time.
Yeah, I feel
2022 is going to be it.
Yeah, like playoff Crosby's different. It's different.
Yeah, he is. Next up, the Nashville Predators. They are 4-6-1 for 9 points. They are 7th in the Central. Huge disappointment so far. LeBlanc, what are we thinking?
I'm thinking. Right now, playoffs unlikely.
Okay, yeah, that's where I would say.
Put them at the top.
Yeah, I would put them right here. I was gonna say, are you putting them in James Hagen's season? Come on, what are we doing?
No. Like the team's too good to be in James Hagen's season.
Here's the thing, though. They've kind of picked it up over the last couple of games, but then they started losing again. So, like, you just really don't know what to think. They're only 2 games below 500 technically.
They started 0-4. Like the slow start. Yeah. I'd say the slow starts kill you. Like,
yeah, but like I'm just saying, like if they win their next 2 games, they will be tied for 4th in that Central. That's how close it is right now.
Yeah, it's still early. Like it's still very early.
Early. All it takes is for you to go on like a 3 or 4 game winning streak, and you're back into the playoff race in the Central right now.
Mm-hmm.
But again, starting off slow is a little concerning. But if you pick it up in November, I think you're okay.
Yeah,
generally. So, I think Nashville will be okay. New York Rangers. The Rangers are 8-2-1 for 17 points. They are first in the Metropolitan. LeBlanc, I think it's fair. Like, we have all the top division teams and cup contenders. I think you got to put the Rangers in cup contenders.
Yeah, I'll say you got to put them there. Though, I still think Igor is carrying this franchise.
He is.
I do want to mention I'm still salty about the game on Friday, where the Sens had 42 shots and still lost the game. It still lost.
Yeah, it happens. You get goalied.
Yeah, goalied.
So, again, I see where you're coming from there. We have 4 Metro teams in playoff luck right now.
Yeah, like we always said the Atlantic was the toughest division, but like I get when you play the toughest teams, you get the toughest battles. But yeah.
Next up, then we got 3 straight Atlantic teams just to make LeBlanc have some fun. The Detroit Red Wings are up first. The Red Wings are, I pulled up the wrong thing. Detroit is
5-5-1
for 11 points. They are 6th in that Atlantic division. LeBlanc, they're 500 right now. I don't really know what to gauge out of Detroit. I would probably say either towards the bottom of playoffs likely or the top of playoffs unlikely.
They're weird. Like I can't gauge Detroit because some games they'll have like 15 shots and lose the game. Other games they'll put up like 25, 30 shots and win the game. Like Detroit is so inconsistent. And like the goaltending is the one thing that's actually keeping them in these games, which is something that we discussed that was one of their weak points. So I don't trust Detroit as far as I can throw them. I'm gonna put them at the top of playoffs unlikely.
Ahead of Nashville?
Ahead of Nashville, yes.
Okay. Yeah, I think that Detroit for me still so early. I like how Lions played. I feel like Lions played okay so far. The defense looks atrocious, especially trading Mata. It looks even worse now. Apart
Mm-hmm.
from that first pairing, you just you don't know right now. There's a few teams in this league right now where I'd say it's still too early to tell. Detroit's one of them.
Yeah.
I just don't know just yet with them. I think playoffs unlikely or playoffs likely. Towards the bottom of that or the top of playoffs, it's fair. But again, I don't know. It's still really early. And again, people are going to see this on Instagram and flip out that Calgary's in playoffs likely and Detroit's in
Yeah.
playoffs
So
likely.
at the end of the end of this year, we'll go over it and we'll see if we can switch anything out. We'll see.
Yeah. Next up, the Buffalo Sabres. The Sabres are 4-7-1 for 9 points. They are 7th in that Atlantic Division. They have the same exact record as Montreal right now. So I think it's. I
They
think it's
also have
probably
the same exact record as Philly.
They do. Thanks for reminding me.
I
Yeah,
I'm gonna say this: James Hagan season.
probably.
Buffalo's looked brutal. Like they went on a 3-game heater, but outside of that, brutal.
They looked so bad to start. Then they fought their way to 500, and you were like, oh my God, this is their comeback. And then they just started losing again. So, you don't know. And honestly, I feel like we might see Adams fired by Thanksgiving, American Thanksgiving.
Yeah, yeah. And I want to say I've been like one of Kevin Adams' biggest critics. Like all the moves he's made to try and get into contention, and that's not working.
No, I don't know. This is looking like it's going to be 14 years in a row. So, we'll see. 5 teams left. LeBlanc's favorite team up next, the Ottawa Senators. They are 6-5-0 for 12 points. They are 5th in that Atlantic Division. LeBlanc, what do you think about Ottawa?
I think Ottawa's playing. If you look at the past 3 games, Ottawa's playing really, really well. They're it's weird seeing them be decent this early because usually we aren't good early. Ottawa's look really good defensively. Ottawa between the pipes, they're getting good goaltending from Forsberg. Something I never thought I would say on this pod. Offense looks on fire right now. I'm gonna put them in playoffs likely, probably below Colorado.
Okay, so playoffs unlikely below Colorado. I feel like LeBlanc. I'm not gonna lie to you. We might have Colorado a little too low on this, but we'll get into that later. I think with Ottawa, I actually like how Forsberg's played. Forsberg, I thought, has played better than Olmark for some weird reason. Has 2 shutouts to start the year, which is a good thing because again, he was not that great last year. Seeing him play good this year so far is good to see. I don't know. There's a few games where they played super well. There's a few games where they've gotten goal lead. But I think overall, it's been a solid start for Ottawa. But again, the biggest thing with Ottawa, and I wish we had a podcast in previous years, but the biggest thing with Ottawa is that November.
Yeah.
After November, we'll really see where this team's at. But again, we're already in November. But after this month, we'll see where they're at overall. But I think right now you can't all be satisfied with what they've done so far.
Yeah.
Right.
San Jose, you know what it is.
San Jose 3-8-2, 8 points, 8th in the Pacific. They are James Hagan.
You know what it is. You know what.
You know what it is. You do.
Yeah.
So,
not really much to say on. They're rebuilding. It's a rebuild. Good luck. Buckle up, baby. I don't really know.
Yeah, they look. There are games where they look good.
They went on a random 3-game heater.
Yeah, they beat
Utah.
They beat LA, or no, they beat.
Yeah, they beat LA. Yeah, they beat LA.
They beat Chicago.
Mm-hmm.
So they look like they're in a solid spot right now. But again, I think that tampers off. They're probably going to be the top odds for the first overall pick again, and people are going to get mad. But they look so much fun. Like they look. If they get Higgins, that team's going to be loaded.
Yeah, no, they're like San Jose is a fun team. Like if they get Higgins, that's gonna be a very fun team to watch.
Good luck paying all those guys in the year 2030.
Yeah,
Like, oh my god.
but I like it's fun though. Like I really do like where San Jose is going with this.
Yeah, I agree. Dallas, the Dallas Stars right now are 7-4-0 for 14 points. They are third in that Central Division. I think you got to put them probably in playoff lock. I don't know if they're cup contenders right now.
Top of playoff lock.
Yeah, most likely. I think Dallas has looked solid so far. There are some games where I'm a little, I don't know about that, but I think they've looked good so far. So
yeah, Dallas. I know they're coming off 2 games against Florida over in where is it? Tempare.
They did drop both of those. Yes.
So like honestly, you could argue they could be in cup contender, but I'm gonna put them in playoff lock for now.
Yeah, we'll put them at the top of playoff lock. Just got to see a better month of November for me to put them in cup contender.
Yeah.
Next up, Utah. Utah is 5-4-3 for 13 points. They are fourth in that Central Division. For Utah, I would put them in playoffs likely. Probably towards the bottom. Maybe Ottawa, but I think they can.
That's fair. That's fair take. I think Utah has stretches where they look really good. They stretches where they're like, they could play better.
Yeah, I agree. So I think Utah being towards the bottom of playoffs likely, I think is the right spot. And finally, the Minnesota Wild. They are 8-1-2 for 18 points. They are second in the Central. LeBlanc, they are one of 2 teams, Winnipeg being the other one, that only has 1 regulation loss. I think you got to put them in playoff lock right now.
Yeah, I'd say top playoff lock. You could argue cup contender, but we'll think playoff lock is fine. They look great. Like I don't know what to say. Like Gustafsson turned it on. Like
he has. They just look like they're firing on all cylinders right now. You just can't help but be happy.
All right. Yeah. No, I like how Minnesota's been playing. Kaprizov's been fantastic.
Yes, I'm with you.
All
right.
I'm going to propose a change.
Okay.
We are going to move Calgary. Your choice. You move Detroit up to playoffs likely, or you can move Calgary down to playoffs unlikely.
I think we move Calgary down.
Okay. I put them below. You want to put them above Detroit or below Detroit?
I put them above Detroit.
Yeah,
below Detroit.
Okay. And I'm gonna propose that you move Vegas down. I think I got a little too excited.
Are you sure? Because we have all the other
division winner. You know what? Yeah, keep them up there then.
Yeah.
Yeah. Colorado, move them up in the playoffs likely tier as well. I would move them above Boston.
Okay.
And then I would move the Islanders above Pittsburgh. That's really about it.
Yeah, I think everything else is fine right now for me. I would maybe move the Devils above the Capitals. Yeah,
we knew that. That's fine.
And Carolina above Tampa too.
I would put Carolina above Washington as well.
Yeah, I kind of agree.
Yeah, they just beat them today too, so
they did. So we kind of have to do that.
Yeah.
All right, well, that is our tier list for October 2024. So, Cup contenders, you have 4 teams. You have the Jets, the Golden Knights, the Panthers, and the Rangers. Playoff lock, you have 6 teams. The Stars, the Wild, the Devils, the Hurricanes, the Capitals, and the Lightning. Playoffs likely, you have 8 teams. You have the Oilers, the Canucks, the Maple Leafs, the Avalanche, the Bruins, the Kings, the Sens, and Utah. Playoffs unlikely, Detroit, Calgary, Nashville, Seattle, Columbus, Islanders, Penguins, St. Louis, and then James Hagan's season, Chicago, Buffalo, Philadelphia, Montreal, Anaheim, and San Jose. All right, that will do it for our October tier list, and that will do it for this episode of the Norden Block Podcast. LeBlanc, any final thoughts on this episode?
It's a good month. Hockey, first month of hockey's back, basically. It was obviously I'm looking forward to see where how the teams move come December 1st. We do our next one. But yeah, like some teams are surprises, some teams have disappointed us severely. Other teams are where we expected them to be. So I'm very excited to see where the month takes, especially with the Senators. Because November, has always been the killer of that. So I'm excited to see where that goes. Yeah.
Again, you may see some overreactions with our tier list. Like we may have some teams in some crazy spots. But again, we want to say that it's the first month and maybe some overreactions there. But anywho, that will conclude this episode of the Northern Block Podcast. Thank you guys for watching or listening. If you are enjoyed, be sure to subscribe to the YouTube channel. Follow us on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. Follow the Northern Block Pod Instagram at NordBlockPod, and follow the Northern Block Pod Twitter at NordBlockPod. I'm Nord, that's Block. Thanks for watching, and see you in the next one.
Ciao.
I just do what I do. See me? I just do what I do. Man, I just do what I do. Don't know about you. I just do what I do. Check. That's the intro. See that? Yeah. I just do what I do. See me? I just do what I do. Yo, check. Let me flip this script. I feel privileged for all who can witness this. I am close to divine. Know the moment is mine, need no omen or sign. Providing a back sound to all the squares that ask around. Be getting it, my skills pay me. Trying to get a million, baby, with an adopted flow that God gave me. Tell whoever runners that they spot is temporary till I take it, it's mine. I'm selfish, your will. Tell Miss I'm on my wealth tip. So when we cash out soon, I'm just investing. Hey, no yes men. I've been a legend since before mom and dad had me and was best friends. I chew through comp, don't test them. I chew on tracks, cause after that I bless